Alright, so what are we doing here? I am on a Kawasaki ZH2. My buddy Mike, hi Mike, is on his, it's our long-term project bike. We'll tell you about that here in a minute. But Mike and I have decided to come here to Mexico, and we're just going to do a couple little roll-ons. Yep. Now, 2, 3. Alright. So I am on a stock ZH2. Mike is on our long-term project bike. It's a 2016 ZX10. Set up right the way he is right now, he's in the 190s in the horsepower for sure. I ain't got nothing for him. I just wondered how close it'd be. So anyway, Mike is on the 2016 long-term bike. 23,000 miles. 28,000. All right, Mike, I'm in second. 1, 2, 3. Alright. I got a little jump on him. Well, as you guys can tell, I really don't have anything for Mike. So, what's the point of this drill? We're going to go back and we're going to make some changes and see whether or not I can come up with a little something for Mike. I don't like getting beat up, Mr. Mike. I love Mexico. Tell you what, this ZH2 is not, it's not a turd by a long shot. This is a fun motorcycle. But what's your definition of fast? And why did you buy a supercharged bike? Exactly, not to get outrun by your buddy on his normally aspirated ZX10. So, oh, that's a good point. It's got all the good Brock stuff. Well, you got a pentacarbon, you got a sprint filter, you've got a PC5 on the bike, correct? Oh, that's right. Got our flash. You've got it re-geared. What'd you say you were? 1641. Last time we had it on a dyno, I think it made, what did it make? Like 193, 194? Maybe a little different. And then one carbon fiber wheel. He had a problem with his other carbon fiber. It got damaged by the roadside crew. Was this us? And then so even though his front wheel got paid for from the roadside crew that damaged it, it's still not in stock because we have lots and lots of delays from a word nobody wants to hear about anymore. So anyway, he'll have a new front wheel soon. Bike runs good, no doubt about that. What do you weigh, Mike? About 240. So Mike's got me by about 40 pounds. That's not helping his case, but he was able to take out the bone stock ZH2 pretty easily. So the question is, what can we do about it? Now, if you remember our last video, for Mexican traffic, our last video, Dan Milholland came to pick up his bike, but he couldn't ride it. All it did was rain. He hung around for 2 days and all it did was rain. So basically he had to take it back. He loves the bike. He made right at 200 horsepower the way it was made. Now this one doesn't have 200 horsepower. The way it sits right now, so I sort of suspected we were going to have trouble trying to get around Mike. But in the same respect, now we have the ability to not only put this bike where Dan's other ZH2 was, we're going to go one step further because we have the very, well, I won't call it the first, it's the very first for box performance Bren Tuning Flash that we're going to do in conjunction with the rest of the parts, and then we're going to come back out and see whether or not little Mr. ZH2 has anything for Mike. We just got to make our way back to Ohio from Mexico. Well, that was fun. We'll do a little quickie walk around on Mike's bike. Pentacarbon, BST rear, sprint filter, power commander, front end strap. You got little carbon tidbits all around. Looking good. As always, needs a bath.
Absolutely.
Of course.
I ride it more than I do wash it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's pretty hard to get 28,000 miles on a sport bike and keep it clean. All right, let's go put this thing up on the dyno and see what it says. All right, everybody. So there's Mike without his gear on. Say hi, Mike. We just made a little trip to Mexico. Had a couple roll-ons. Second gear, 30-40 mile an hour up to, you know, fifth gear or so. I got my butt kicked. I don't like it. I'm upset right now. I'm gonna do everything I can to fix it. See what happens. All right. Hot. To recap, this is a Kawasaki ZH2. This is not the original Kawasaki ZH2 that we started with way back in March of 2020. That's owned by Old Cowboy on the boards, aka Dan Milholland in real life. Confusingly enough, our local gentleman who has been kind enough to loan us his bone stock bike is also named Dan. So, this is that Dan's bike. We had just gone out, did a little, let's see where we're at with Mike's ZX10. I rolled the bike as soon as we got finished with our trip through Mexico. I rolled the bike right up on the dyno. I did hook it up with ODB2, which makes it really nice because we'll get horsepower and torque. So we're going to get we'll typically start, you know us, everything we do, baseline run. We'll usually do 3 baseline runs, same day, same time. We'll see exactly what this bike has got in it right now, and then we'll start making changes to see if we can take some of that 10 bike gap back to a 5 bike gap, back to a no bike gap, back to Mike getting his ass whooped is where he needs to be with me riding that bike. Let's see if we can accomplish that. But first, let's get these dyno runs out of the way. Okay guys, one more thing before we get started. I mentioned ODB2. Well, one of the things that's going to do here is give us some really nice live data. By going through the OBD2, we're going to have a torque reading. So we will read live horsepower here, live torque here, and I have the option of ODB2 throttle position. So what I'm going to do, of course it's a dyno run. I'm going to be in 5th gear. I'm going to be at wide open throttle. I want you guys, I'm going to have the cameraman pan over to here, and I want you to watch the power, but also watch the throttle position, because even though I stay wide open, watch what this bike does, and that's a big reason why I did okay for a certain point, but then all of a sudden it wasn't necessarily Mike pulling away from me as it was this bike slowing down and making it look like bike was pulling away from me. Now granted, he was, but this really accelerates the depth by which you get your ass kicked when your bike is restricted against one that's not. Okay, well, that was good. Different weather conditions, really hot and muggy in our room. This bike, and Mike, has it been, it's got 3,000 miles, so it probably had its first Kawasaki service.
Yep. And
so full synthetic, probably the 1040 oil.
1040 full synthetic Cowie. Got a service again at the beginning of this season, probably late 2,000 miles, early 3,000. Okay. So relatively fresh oil.
Otherwise, all stock air cleaner, stock pipes, stock pretty much everything.
Bone stock.
If you guys look, I was a little tentative on the first run. I wanted to make sure everything was okay, so I chopped the gas just a little bit early. That didn't affect the peak horsepower numbers. You can see here, it looks like run number 1 is the best horsepower. Let's go ahead and isolate this, and then I'm going to come over here just for giggles and see how that compares to Dan's stock base run. We had a couple in much different conditions. Here's one from July. Okay. So you can see a little teeny bit different. Dan's bike, well, at that time, I honestly don't know why it would be different here. Well, did I have anything done? The bike was broken in. Dan's bike, the first bike was broken in on the dyno. So, but it looks like it's a little shallow here, but working up there. So anyway, for all practical purposes, a couple horsepower in a year difference weather conditions. That's exactly what we needed to know on this bike. So we've got a good base. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just go straight into the ECU flash. And Mike, you handled it yesterday. Mm-hmm. I've done it also with Brendan on the 2020 BMW. So basically, the procedure is really simple. You want to grab the handheld, and we'll just sort of walk through it. Oh, it was just brought to my attention that Mike and trusty cameraman Corey here were taking care of some due diligence and made a clip of them extracting the stock map from the bike yesterday.
All right, we've just received our flash unit for the ZH2 from Bren Tuning, and we're going to get it hooked up to the bike to extract the bin file and start the flash process. The first thing you want to do is just take off your stock seats. That way you have access to both the positive battery terminal and your Euro 5 diagnostic port here. So we're going to get this guy pulled off. It's on the left side of the battery, typically tucked into the frame right here. Little dust cover pops up pretty easy. You have to attach your power to the positive terminal. Plug that guy right in there. The unit will fire right up for you. Now when the unit comes up, you're going to have work, reset, setup, and info. We want the work. Kawasaki, ZH2, and we've been told by Bren that if you select the wrong one of these, that it will automatically choose the right one for you. So we'll just select the bottom one. Please connect your vehicle to power. We're good to go there. Switch on the dash. So at this point, we will do what it says. Turn on the dash. Select button. It's now talking with the ECU. Switch off the dash. Okay. It is extracted part of the flash file. Now we want it to identify the flash file. Switch on the dash. Click OK. Switch off the dash. Task is successfully completed. All right, now we're back to the main menu here. Next step is we're going to disconnect this, take it up to the computer, and get this file sent over to Bren so he can work his magic.
So what we're going to do is just come over here and so Mike, how that worked, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. You order the handheld from Bren Tune. Mm-hmm. You put it on, you follow their instructions. It tells you how to extract the stock map or bin file from the ECU. Mm-hmm. You save that to your desktop. You send that, you email that over to them with what bike mods you had. Now this is just a completely stock bike. It won't be by the time we're done, but right now so you asked for the stock bike map, and they went ahead and sent you one that would be maybe if you had a slip-on exhaust or a stock bike that you wanted to make sure was really safe if you were going to do a lot of land speed or high speed stuff.
Yeah, as far as, so the two files that they sent us were Both derestriction flashes, one contained fueling modifications for the stock pipe. What that entails, I'm not sure, but the other one was no fueling, just derestriction.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and install that map just as it came from Bren Tuning. In order to do that, we're going to have to take away my cheater cable and put on Mike's cheater cable.
Okay, get some power here.
And that's just to power up the unit.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so this is right when you plug in the unit. Just pops up to this screen here. We're going to click work. And then we're going to click writing. And then here are the files that he sent us. Stock pipe no fueling or stock pipe with fueling. We are going stock pipe no fueling. And we pretty much just wait for this thing to tell us what to do. So make sure that you got a strong battery, more or less. So it's requesting us to turn on the dash. Now Bren, we talked to him. He does recommend letting this thing fully prime, give a little bit of a delay in between turning on or off and acknowledging the unit here for that. So it's beginning to talk, do its thing, switch off, let it finish its little shutdown sequence on the dash, and we're going to acknowledge it here. Alright, now it is asking us to reconnect it. We'll go ahead and turn it back on.
I think you can hear the fuel pump cycle completely there. That's what you want before you push any buttons, correct?
Correct, and I'm giving a few second delay after the fuel pump is done priming as well, just in case. Now it is actually writing the program to the ECU. If you'll notice, Corey, up here on the dash, as soon as it starts writing, the dash freaks out. Perfectly normal, don't get scared when that happens. It's just the program writing itself into the ECU. Right now the dash and the computer don't know exactly what's going on. Since it is mid-write, and after it goes through this process, we'll see the dash clear itself back out. All this little flashing chaos up here will go away.
And on the on your first load especially, you can see our little progress graph here. We've been yammering now for a couple minutes and it doesn't seem like it's moved that far. 10 minutes, sometimes more.
Yeah.
For depending on the size of the flash and so forth. And then also if you put in another flash that only has like tuning mods or whatever, typically they go through much quicker because they don't have to rewrite the entire ECU, which is what's happening right now.
The really nice thing about the Bren setup is it's all done through handheld, just connects right through the Euro 5 diagnostic port on this bike. BMW connects right into the OBD2 port. Not sure about the ZX10 or the new Yamaha flash that just came out, but everything's contained right within this little thing. You don't have to bring a laptop out or anything like that.
And Mike, just to throw a little input there, those are Euro 5 bikes also, so they have the same red connector, same stuff, same process.
So, yeah, connection process should be the same then. It's a lot easier than dragging a laptop out and finding a power source. And
or like on the Ninja H2, spending hours extracting the ECU and even more hours because you forgot where all the damn bolts and things went. I swear it took me 4 or 5 hours every time, and I'd always have to go back to our instructions to figure it out. So this does make that very nice. I gotta say, I do like the convenience of this. And so, you know, guys, this is the first time we've tried to flash a file into the ECU. We've only extracted the stock one, so if Mike's pushing the wrong buttons, I'll get him later. On your particular bike, now on a brand new bike like this, 3,000 miles, brand new battery, we should be fine. If your bike's older than that, or if you've had any trouble with your battery or having any trouble starting, put a battery charger on, because you can very effectively brick your ECU. Don't ask me how I know this. If your battery goes dead in the middle of flashing it. So this is just this is taking a little while, but I'm sure we'll be fine on this one. And there's no going back. We're committed at this point. like we're getting close. Getting close eyeballs on. Oh yeah. Getting down to the short hairs. Go. Switch off
Alright,
the
switch
dashboard.
off the dashboard. If you can see up here on the dash, Corey, everything has, and we still got a couple little errors, but it's not flashing like crazy anymore. Now, once I cycle this like it is requesting, it should go back to a completely normal mode. So it's saying switch off. We'll do that. Listen for everything to quiet down. Click OK here.
So it's probably, is it re-zeroing its throttle? I can't really hear.
It's requesting to get switched back on. I believe this is where it will go through that. So everything has stopped priming. Our little error here on the dash has gone away. The check engine light is still on, but that's because we have not fired the bike up yet. So it is on. Now it's requesting to switch the dash back off. Alright, throttle blades have closed. Acknowledge. Run error detection. Alright, switch on the throttle. Everything's primed. Switch off the dash. Acknowledge. Okay. Switch off. Acknowledge. Alright, ECU write is complete. That's what we like to see. Alright, that's great news there.
What was that, 15 minutes? Probably.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
We'll fast forward through that stuff so you guys don't have to watch it all.
Now we can get this guy all disconnected, get her hooked back up to the dyno, and let's see what she does.
See what we got. See what 527 day wait got us. And by the way, that is no reflection on Bren Tuning. Thank you, Brendan, for getting this done. We went through everybody. Everybody else cried uncle and quit. So Brendan went ahead, got his guys on it, got on it himself, and the next thing you know, we are ready to push the button and hopefully make quite a bit more power on this bike. Let's see what we get. This is just your basic bare bones derestriction flash. We're going to do the same thing we did last time. Watch the throttle position here, watch the horsepower here, and you may want to watch the RPMs because the bike should rev 500 or 600 RPM a little higher this time. So let's see what they get. Now this is no tune. This is just derestrict my ZH2. For those of you wondering, we have been waiting 527 days, which translate to 1 year, 5 months, 9 days, or 17 months, 9 days, since Dan from Tennessee graciously dropped off his ZH2 until we are about to make our first derestricted pull on this bike. So next time somebody asks me, how long does it take to flash a bike? I thought 527 days. Go ride your bike and enjoy it. We'll be with you then. It's hot. The day is long. All right, so I had mentioned when I did the 2020 tune, the Bren Tuning unit on the 2020 BMW S1000RR, that it was one of the easiest tunes I had ever done. Put it in, worked great, and that was it. Go to the track, kick everybody's butt. But I also mentioned that I know how difficult that is because I know how much work goes into making something like that. They had a ton of practice, hours, testing, more testing on that flash, whereas we are one of the few first to test this one. So what happened here? Quite frankly, that's what we're gonna find out. It started to pull, started to make great power, and then all of a sudden, blah, dead. And here's the thing that's strange. Right now I've got torque up here, right? I'm gonna take torque out and I'm going to replace it with throttle position. Okay, so in all stock form, you can see the blue line gradually raises because even though I'm at 100% throttle, it's not. We're at 48%, we're at 58%. You can see it go up. It's only at wide open throttle that long and it starts to die. Well, the red line was the last pull, and you can see I went straight to 100% throttle. Now this isn't scalable, so 87 is actually 100. Trust me, the line is arrow straight. That's 100% throttle all the way through. It didn't really pick up any power down low, but here's the crazy part. Once we get up to here, we're at 100% throttle, but instead of climbing, man, this thing tanks off even worse than stock. Well, how could that be? Obviously, we got a little difference in air-fuel ratio, but the real question is, what could be slowing this down? So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to look at, let me grab a pointer here. See this little valve? X-Up marketing people from Yamaha named it X-Up. We just keep calling it that. The question we're going to have is, in the middle of that run, does that valve shut off for some reason? Because I can tell you that this thing makes a weird whooshing sound. Now it's supercharged, so they make a whooshing sound, but this thing gets really loud, like it's really pushing a lot of velocity out of the exhaust pipe. So if that's what's going on, that's a fairly easy fix. The other thing is this bike has multiple performance modes. Now we were running it in rider mode with the K-track turned off and on full power. That's what that red line is. We talked to Brendan, he said try it in sport mode and see what happens, because that's typically where we put all of our changes. So we're gonna do a combination of things here. We're gonna try it in sport mode, see if that straightens itself out, and while I'm doing that, our trusty buddy Mike is going to be down there looking to see whether or not that exhaust valve is prematurely closing in the middle of our run. So this should be interesting to see what happens. Pretty cool. It looks like switching modes made the biggest difference. If we go over here and look at our first run in green, instead of tanking like the red, see how the red one just tanked. In sport mode, no more tank. 178 horsepower to 104 horsepower. That's pretty good. And then the blue line, we have 183, 116 versus 180. I mean, just huge power gains. Now, here's the part that makes me smile a little bit. Mike was watching the valve. It didn't move up here, correct?
No.
So now that we have the bike actually pulling up to its new red line, if I look at the air fuel, our last run was 10.3 to 1. That is a very effective way to crush power up in this area. Now, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, we also have a performance map. You want to go ahead and load that in here?
Map, yes.
Yeah, with changes in fueling that hopefully will take this pig richness. Does that work? Can I coin that? Pig richness. Get that out of there so this bike continues to pull up in here, and boy, we're going to have well, those are huge power gains to begin with. This thing ought to be interesting to ride. But let's get it fine-tuned a little bit and see where we're at. Yeah. And this is all still with the stock exhaust, and stock air cleaner, stock everything. So let's go ahead and put that other file in. We'll give it another shot and see what happens.
All right, so what we got going on here, as Brock just mentioned, we are going to load the map that has a preset fueling modification in it from Bren Tuning. Very similar procedure to before. We hit work, it thinks about it, we hit writing. Now instead of it going straight to the maps, we have these options here. We're going to go down to modified, and then stock pipe no fueling. That is the one that we have in there currently. Stock pipe with fueling is what we're after this go around. Alright, so switch on the dash. We go through this song and dance again. I'm going to go ahead and set the flasher down. Alright, it is now writing the new map into the ECU.
Alright, so Mike, you just loaded the second map that has fuel tuning.
Yep.
Did it say what that fuel tuning was for? Stock exhaust, performance exhaust?
Stock exhaust.
Stock exhaust.
Yep.
So my guess is, because this thing is so rich, common sense would say lean it down a little bit, get it somewhat where it needs to be, and see if that straightens up this curve here. So I think everything's done. Check. Oh, by the way, guys, asterisks. Remember when I said it doesn't take as long the second time? That's not the case with this. It took every second as long. Yep. So it does take about 10 minutes to load the map in. But then once you do it, you're done. So
yep.
That's.
We have just a touch left to finish up, a couple more 1,000 key flicks here, and then we'll be ready to take off with it. Essentially what this is doing is just resetting the ECU for the new flash that's in it, and then going to clear any codes that came up from the flash. Alright, right in the ECU, completed. It's just making a log file of what it's just done, and we should be ready to rock and roll.
All I need is a seat. One word. Wow. We just jumped to 210 horsepower by doing nothing more than adjusting the fuel on the bike. And you can see if you like going fast up in this area is where you're going to spend most of your time. Look at that jump simply from taking the air fuel from 10.38 up to 11.86. That's huge. You can see, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a decent curve. And when we spoke to Brendan, he's like, Brock, I got in there, I did a couple little adjustments to try to make things straighter. It's definitely not a finished map. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna get to our work. And what that means is we're gonna go ahead, pull the stock exhaust off, put the sprint filter in, put a power commander on it, because we can make this perfectly straight everywhere with a power commander. and then send that information over to Brendan, and he can use it to make final fuel maps that are awesome. So it's a long process. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of work, but a lot of guys just don't want power commanders anymore. We get it. We get it. Just get on and ride, no problem. But some of the guys who really do want to go fast and want the ability to trackside tune their bike, power commander is the only way to go. So we're going to go ahead, see what we can get out of this thing, and damn, I got to tell you, I'm impressed. I didn't think it was in there through that stock exhaust. So yeah, this might be a really interesting project that we've stumbled onto here. ZH2 guys, we now offer swing arm extensions.